look who's still standing. Look who's still breathing after everything they threw at you, after every curse they whispered, every trap they set, every psychological game they played, thinking you'd finally crack and give them the satisfaction of watching you crumble. Hello, you beautiful, unbreakable force of chaos. Hello to the one who looked evil in the eyes and didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't bow. Hello to the soul who walked into the den of wolves, sat down at their table, smiled at their threats, and made them realize with absolute terror that they just invited something far more dangerous than anything they'd ever seen. Welcome back. Or should I say, welcome to your coronation. Because what you just did, what you just survived, what you just became, it didn't just change you. It changed the entire game. And now, every single one of those witches, freaks, and psychos who thought they had you figured out, who thought they could break you, manipulate you, or erase you, they're all sitting in the dark right now, wide awake, wondering what the hell just happened. They're wondering how the person they targeted, the one they isolated, the one they tried to destroy, somehow became the thing they now fear most. They wanted to see you suffer, and instead they created a monster they can't control. You want to know what really happened here. You want to know why they're suddenly quiet, why they stopped talking, why the group chats went silent, why the gossip dried up, why the threats turned into distance. It's simple, and it's beautiful in the most terrifying way possible. They thought they were dealing with someone weak, someone desperate for acceptance, someone who would eventually break under pressure and come crawling back begging for mercy, begging to be let back into their toxic little circle. They thought you were a project, a game, a toy they could wind up and watch spiral. They underestimated you so badly it's almost poetic. See, they were playing checkers, moving their little pieces around, trying to trap you in their manufactured drama, their gaslighting, their emotional manipulation, their spiritual attacks, thinking they had the upper hand because they had numbers, they had history, they had leverage. But you weren't playing checkers. You weren't even playing chess. You were playing a completely different game, one they didn't have the manual for, one that didn't follow their rules. And the moment they realized that, the moment it clicked in their twisted little minds that you weren't reacting the way you were supposed to, that's when the fear set in. That's when they understood they hadn't broken you. They'd awakened something. Let's rewind the tape for a second so we can really appreciate this masterpiece. Remember when they first started circling you, when they saw something in you they wanted to consume, control, or destroy. Maybe it was your energy, maybe it was your light, maybe it was your potential, or maybe it was just the fact that you existed outside their control and that drove them absolutely insane. They came at you with smiles, with false friendships, with fake concern, with manipulative games disguised as care. They studied you, didn't they? They watched your patterns, learned your triggers, figured out your weaknesses, took mental notes on everything that made you vulnerable. They brought others into it, built alliances against you, created narratives about you that weren't true but sounded believable enough to isolate you from anyone who might have had your back. They tried to make you doubt yourself, doubt your reality, doubt your own mind. They wanted you paranoid, destabilized, emotionally dependent on their version of reality. And for a while, maybe it worked. Maybe you did question yourself. Maybe you did feel like you were losing your mind. Maybe you did wonder if something was wrong with you, if you were the problem, if you deserved what was happening. But here's what they didn't count on. Here's the variable they couldn't predict. You didn't stay down. You didn't stay confused. You didn't stay broken. Something inside you, something ancient, something primal, something that had been sleeping for too long. It woke up. And when it woke up, it didn't wake up scared. It woke up hungry. It woke up angry. It woke up ready to burn everything fake, everything toxic, everything manipulative to the ground and walk away from the ashes without looking back. You started seeing through them, didn't you? The masks started slipping. The lies became obvious. The manipulation became transparent. You started recognizing the patterns, the tactics, the energy vampirism, the projection, the gaslighting, the triangulation, all of it. And instead of confronting them, instead of giving them the reaction they desperately wanted, instead of exploding or breaking down or begging them to stop, you did something they never expected. You went silent. Not the silence of defeat, not the silence of fear, but the silence of someone who just realized they're surrounded by amateurs. The silence of someone who just leveled up so far beyond their comprehension that words became unnecessary. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped defending yourself. You stopped trying to make them understand because you realized something crucial. They were never trying to understand, they were trying to control. And you were never going to give them that power again. And that's when it started. That's when they felt it. The shift, the change in your energy, the way you stopped flinching when they tested you, the way you stopped reacting when they provoked you, the way you looked at them like they were nothing, like they were ghosts, like they were background noise in a life that had suddenly become far more interesting without them. They threw everything they had at you, every manipulation tactic, every guilt trip, every threat, every attempt to pull you back into their circus. And you just kept walking. No explanations, no apologies, no closure. You gave them nothing. And that nothing was more powerful than anything you could have said. Because when you stop feeding the vampires, when you stop giving narcissists supply, when you stop reacting to psychos, they don't just get angry, they get desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. They overplay their hand, they reveal themselves, they show everyone exactly who they really are. And while they were busy having their meltdowns, while they were busy trying to smear your name, while they were busy trying to convince everyone you were the villain, you were busy becoming untouchable. You were busy healing. You were busy evolving. You were busy building a version of yourself so powerful, so protected, so aligned with your truth that their attacks couldn't even reach you anymore. Now let's talk about what happened next, because this is where it gets really beautiful, really poetic, really perfect. They started noticing something was different. They started seeing you thrive. They started watching you glow. They started realizing that everything they tried to take from you, you built back stronger. Every wound they inflicted, you turned into wisdom. Every betrayal they orchestrated, you used as fuel. Every lie they spread, you let expose itself. You didn't have to defend yourself because your life started defending you. Your peace defended you. Your growth defended you. Your silence defended you, louder than any words ever could. And suddenly they weren't laughing anymore. Suddenly they weren't feeling so powerful. Suddenly they were the ones feeling exposed, feeling watched, feeling like maybe they messed with the wrong one. See, they thought breaking you would elevate them. But instead, it revealed them. It revealed their emptiness. It revealed their need for drama. It revealed their addiction to chaos. It revealed that without someone to target, someone to tear down, someone to blame, they were just hollow shells with nothing substantial inside. And now they had to sit with that reality while watching you become everything they'll never be. Free, authentic, powerful, and genuinely happy without needing to destroy anyone to feel good about yourself. But here's where you really outdid them. Here's where you out-crazied every single witch, freak, and psycho who thought they had the upper hand. You didn't seek revenge. You didn't plot against them. You didn't spend your nights fantasizing about their downfall or scheming ways to hurt them back. You did something far more devastating, far more powerful, far more psychologically destructive to their egos than any revenge plot could ever accomplish. You became indifferent. You became genuinely, completely, unshakably indifferent to their existence. Not the fake indifference, where you're still checking their pages, still asking mutual friends about them, still secretly hoping they see you winning. No, the real kind, the terrifying kind, the kind where they literally don't exist in your universe anymore, where they're not even worth the mental energy it would take to hate them. That kind of indifference, that's the ultimate power move, because it tells them something they can't handle hearing. You're not important enough to hate. You're not significant enough to remember. You're not even interesting enough to think about. And for people whose entire identity is built on being powerful, being feared, being relevant, being the center of attention, that indifference is worse than any curse. Any confrontation, any revenge, it's erasure. It's being forgotten by someone who was supposed to be destroyed by them. That's the ultimate insult, and you delivered it without saying a single word. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening in their world right now, because it's absolutely delicious. They're obsessed. They're checking on you constantly. They're scrolling through your content, your pages, your life, looking for any sign that you're still affected, still hurt, still thinking about them. And they're asking people about you. They're bringing you up in conversations that have nothing to do with you. They're telling stories about you, probably twisted versions designed to make them look like victims and you look like the villain. But here's the thing, even their stories are about you. Even their lies keep your name alive. You live rent-free in their minds while they don't even cross yours. They thought they'd haunt you, but instead they're the ones being haunted. They're haunted by the fact that you're fine. They're haunted by the fact that you're thriving. They're haunted by the fact that nothing they did left a permanent scar. They're haunted by the reality that you survived them, outgrew them, and moved on to a version of life they'll never access because they're still stuck in the same toxic patterns, still playing the same games, still destroying everyone who gets close to them. And well, you're out here building something real, something meaningful, something they can see but never touch. And the funniest part? The absolute cosmic joke in all of this, they thought they were the crazy ones. They thought they were the dangerous ones. They thought they had the market cornered on manipulation, psychological warfare, mind games, and chaos. They walked around with this energy like they were untouchable, like they were the villains everyone should fear, like they were the ones writing the rules of engagement. But then you showed up. You sat quietly in their chaos. You observed their patterns. You learned their tactics. You understood their psychology better than they understood themselves. And then you did something they never saw coming. You mirrored it back at them. Not by becoming like them, but by showing them what real power looks like. Real power doesn't need an audience. Real power doesn't need validation. Real power doesn't need to manipulate, control, or destroy to feel strong. Real power is walking away from toxicity without looking back. Real power is healing in silence while they scream into the void. Real power is building a life so full, so peaceful, so aligned that their chaos can't even reach you anymore. That's what you did, and it broke their entire worldview, because they realized in that moment that all their tactics, all their games, all their manipulation, it only works on people who still need something from them. Approval, closure, revenge, acknowledgement, anything. But you needed nothing, and that made you invincible. Now, we need to talk about the spiritual aspect of this. Because whether you believe in energy, karma, universal justice, or whatever you want to call it, something bigger than all of you was watching this entire situation unfold. These people came at you with dark energy, with ill intentions, with genuine malice. And the universe saw that. Morgan went cold. The back of Cam's body pinked low. The universe saw someone being targeted for no reason other than their light, their authenticity, their refusal to play fake games. And the universe doesn't just let that slide. There's a cosmic balance, a spiritual ledger. And when people attack others for existing, for growing, for shining, that debt gets recorded. You didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to cast spells, send bad energy back, pray for their downfall, or wish harm on anyone. You just had to stay true to yourself, stay aligned with your path, stay focused on your growth, and let the universe handle the rest. And handle it did. Look at their lives now. Look at the patterns repeating. Look at the destruction they're causing themselves. Look at how every bridge they burn isolates them further. Look at how every lie they tell catches up with them eventually. Look at how every person they target eventually sees through them and walks away. They're creating their own prison, their own hell, their own karma. And you don't have to do a single thing except watch from a distance as they self-destruct. Because that's what always happens to people who build their identity on tearing others down. Eventually they run out of targets, run out of allies, run out of people willing to believe their stories, and they're left alone with the monster they've become. And that's a punishment far worse than anything you could have planned. Let's get deeper into why they're actually scared now. Because fear is a fascinating thing when you understand psychology. Fear isn't always loud. Fear isn't always obvious. Sometimes fear looks like obsession. Sometimes fear looks like hatred. Sometimes fear looks like trying to destroy someone before they can reveal your secrets, expose your lies, or surpass you completely. They fear you now because you represent everything they're not. You represent accountability. You represent growth. You represent the ability to be hurt and still choose healing over revenge. You represent authenticity in a world where they survive by wearing masks. You represent the possibility that someone can walk through hell and come out better instead of bitter, and that terrifies them because it exposes their excuses. If you can heal, why can't they? If you can grow, why are they still stuck? If you can walk away from toxicity, why do they keep creating? You're living proof that their lifestyle, their choices, their patterns are not inevitable, they're choices. And that makes them feel exposed, vulnerable, accountable. They can't hide behind the excuse that everyone is terrible, that life is cruel, that there's no point in being good because you exist as a contradiction to all of that. You're the evidence that they're wrong. and people hate being wrong more than they hate being hurt. So they hate you, or at least they tell themselves they do. But really, they're just scared that everything you represent is calling them to evolve, and evolution requires looking at yourself honestly, and they'd rather destroy you than face themselves. Here's the part they'll never admit, the part that eats at them in the quiet moments when they're alone with their thoughts. They miss you, not the version of you they tried to break, not the version of you they targeted, but the real you. The you that existed before they poisoned everything. They miss your energy. They miss the way you made them feel seen. They miss the authenticity you brought. They miss the potential of what could have been if they weren't so damaged, so toxic, so committed to destruction. They see you now, living your life, thriving without them. And somewhere deep down, they know they lost something irreplaceable, something they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to find in other people and never finding because it was unique to you. Because you were real in a way they'll never experience again. They'll cycle through person after person, relationship after relationship, friendship after friendship, trying to fill the void, but it won't work, because the void isn't about you being gone. The void is about them being fundamentally broken and unwilling to fix themselves. They'll blame everyone else. They'll say everyone leaves them. They'll paint themselves as victims of circumstance. But deep down, in the moments they can't lie to themselves, they know the truth. They destroy everything good that comes into their lives, and you were just another casualty of their self-sabotage. Except you refused to stay destroyed. You rebuilt yourself into something they can't touch, and now they have to live with that reality forever. Now let's address something crucial, something that separates you from them permanently and completely. You learned, you grew, you evolved. You took every painful lesson, every betrayal, every manipulation tactic, and you used it as education. You studied human psychology without even realizing it. You learned to spot red flags instantly. You learned to trust your instincts. You learned that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. The first time, not the 15th. You learned that closure is something you give yourself, not something you get from people who hurt you. You learned that some people are only in your life to teach you what you don't want, what you won't tolerate, what you deserve better than. You learned that walking away is sometimes the most powerful thing you can do, that silence speaks louder than arguments, that your peace is worth more than being right. You learned all of this while they learned nothing. They're still running the same programs, still playing the same games, still hurting people and wondering why everyone leaves, and still hurting people and wondering why everyone leaves.